Hey everyone, it's Red 1940 here. Today we're taking a look at Sea Power Naval Command in the Missile Age, and this is the Red Sea Breakout mission. This is an intro mission, comes with the game, and this is something that you should play if you're a beginner. Maybe you've gone through the tutorials. This is, I think, an excellent mission to kind of demonstrate basically why you probably wouldn't want to be at MCON in some conditions. And so we've got to go through the Red Sea and break out into the Gulf of Aden. You can see here we've got a missile coming at us, and I'm going to walk you through how to play this mission. You can see here the ships actually just engaged, the Yorktown just engaged automatically because of their radars being on. So they'll always defend themselves, even if they're on weapons tight, which is the ROE down here. And we can also set them to weapons free if we want them to automatically engage aircraft. If you've got your ROE set to weapons tight, they'll shoot down missiles coming at them. But if there's a jet flying at them, they're not going to shoot, even if it's hostile, unless they observe it firing a missile or dropping a bomb. So if you know a contact's hostile or air contact's hostile, switch it to weapons free, and then the missiles will start flying towards the enemy jets. Okay, so we need to break out. We either kill all the enemy units or we reach this safe passage area. Oh, looks like we've got some contacts here. So this is something I want to talk to you guys about. If you see a missile launch, well, first off, to see a missile launch, you can't be at MCON. You have to have your air search radar on. Okay, and what this can do is you can see here this contact's not red, and that's because it's an unknown contact. And we can associate this missile launch with that contact, right? Because it's so close to it. If I click on this, it's only 0.1 nautical miles from this contact. In fact, if I pay attention to this thing, I can check the altitude, and I'll be able to see it boost up in altitude and then go back down. So what that's telling me is that there are missile launches, and the missile's in the boost phase right now. Most missiles will go into some sort of boost phase. They'll reach their cruising altitude. That could be a high altitude cruise, or some other missiles can be a low altitude cruise. Like a Harpoon is going to cruise at like 50 feet off the deck. So we're watching this boost, and then that allows us to understand that this guy's probably hostile and he's probably the shooting ship. So I don't need to have my virtual sailors kind of figure this out. I can right click on him and I can say you're hostile. Okay, and because he shot at us, we probably want to shoot back at him, so we can fire a Harpoon at him. We've already got an enemy contact here, so we can also fire another Harpoon over here. And now we got this green contact. That's obviously a merchant, so if we zoom in, it's a merchant. If we were to look at these unknown contacts nearby, if we click on them, you'll see the speed is very high. It's almost 46 knots. This is a merchant ship going 5.2 knots. This is another merchant ship going 6.6 knots. So as you can tell, merchant ships are big. They're laden down with cargo oftentimes. A lot of times they're also just trying to cruise from point A to point B the most economical way. And sometimes they've got a schedule where they got to be in a port at a certain time, so they can afford to go slow. Maybe they don't have to go the fastest they can go. But even if they're going the fastest they can go, you're not going to see a merchant go 46 knots, right? So this guy's slowed down now. They're going 23 knots. You're also probably not going to see many merchants that are capable of doing 23, 24 knots. So we've identified these now through visual and radar and emissions. So that's what the VRE is. And we know it's a P6 boat. So if you don't know what a P6 is, any unit in the game, you can click on it here and then right click, then go to unit reference, and it's going to tell you what it is. Cool thing about this stuff is you can actually click on the weapons, and so you'll get a detailed understanding of what this weapon can do. So we can see that it's got a couple of weapon systems here. It's got the anti-surface torpedo, which is kind of harmful to us because we're on the surface, and it can go 4.5 nautical miles max. Okay, and if we look at the description, it really clearly says it's a straight running torpedo. So that's important to know, because they can't home this torpedo on us. And basically when they fire, it's kind of like when you think of old World War II submarine torpedoes. They've been calculated to fire a certain gyro angle, and once they're on their way, and that's it. They're not going to turn. There are some homing torpedoes, but this is absolutely not one of them. This is a straight running one. This other weapon system is the 25mm gun, so it only goes 1.3 nautical miles. Against a big cruiser, that's going to be nothing, right? So we can engage this guy a couple different ways. We can do it really quickly with a RIM 66 Golf, which is a SM-1 missile, and we can do it with a Harpoon, but obviously we've got a limited number of harpoons. It doesn't really make sense to fire a harpoon at a boat that's about the same size and length, probably. Just kidding, but you know, you get my get the idea there. If we were to fire our 5-inch guns, we can try that as well. But you'll see that it kind of takes some time for this guy to get shot at by these surface guns. And also, this guy's he could maneuver at high speed, and so we're gonna have a hard time. Oh, all right. It looks like this guy just got hit by a harpoon. He's trying to fire now at the other harpoon that's on its way. And now we're heading towards this OSA missile boat, which is the guy that shot some missiles at us that we shot down. All right. You can see with all those guns, it has a possibility of stopping the missile, but it got through. With bigger contacts, you're going to have to judge how many missiles you need to use, and we can talk about that in a little bit as that becomes more appropriate when we go against something else down the line. Okay, so we're trying to fire our guns at this guy. You can see the splashes are all over the place. You can slow your ship down and kind of get better accuracy, but you can see now that I think we're within torpedo range, so he should be firing torpedoes soon. You can double check again. There it goes. Yep. So 1, 2 torpedoes right at us. Perfect shot if we stay straight. So the cool thing is that we're now detecting these torpedoes, right? These 53, 56s. And I can see where they're trying to go by just looking at this map here. So this is the vector of where those torpedoes are heading. This yellow oval is called it's like the oval of uncertainty. So the torpedo's anywhere within this. So we know that that torpedo was fired from this boat, so it's probably really close by to that boat. Our sonar is not going to be really great right now because we're kind of zipping around, going pretty fast and turning. So because this is straight running, this torpedo is just going to run this direction, right? So I could cross this path and I'm safe. It's not like a waycomer. If I cross this path and the torpedo is so far away, it just doesn't matter. I'll get past this line, and then as it moves along, it's just going to pass by as well. Or if I want to avoid it completely, I can just stay on this side of the line. If you're going against a waycomer torpedo, that's definitely the tactic, is to stay, don't cross this line of travel for that waycomer. But if this is a straight running torpedo, you can definitely go across this direction of travel. Just know that, you know, you got to make sure you're aware of the range of that torpedo when you cross over. So we don't really need to cross over right now, so we'll turn back around and we'll take a look at what's going on here. So you see some of the 5 inches are getting a little closer now, but they're still not hitting. Okay. Oh, that's probably... Ooh, 2 hits. That should reduce the speed significantly. 3 hits. That boat's getting wrecked now. You can see the speed drop off dramatically. Okay. So say if we don't want to mess around with the guns, we'll try to engage this other patrol boat or torpedo boat with a missile. And you'll see how fast this ends the life of this ship, this little boat. Okay. So we've been engaging, and we're finally getting hits on that patrol boat. And this one's going to be one and done, basically. Yep, destroyed. So when the targets die, they turn black there on the map. All right, so we can see the straight running torpedoes still kind of going along here. We got to make sure that we're not going to get hit. So I'm going to just take direct control. I'll use my ASWD keys to turn the ship. And I also want to make her go a lot faster. So she's going flank right now. I guess we're topped out until we get into a straight line. Let's see this Petya here. This Petya is slowly sinking with that one harpoon hit. Okay. So far we've kind of seen that it's important to have our radars going, because if you could imagine, not all the ships have a powerful radar system like a cruiser, the Ticonderoga class cruisers with the AEGIS radar. But if you have something like that, it's definitely something you want to weigh, because imagine if we didn't have these radars on, this scenario would go pretty differently. We wouldn't be able to see those boost phases of those ships firing the missiles, so we wouldn't know where to shoot at. And potentially we'd get hit by those missiles, because we might not detect those missiles until they're on the visual horizon, which can be like 10 nautical miles out. And by then there's really seconds before an impact, you know. It's less than a minute before you get hit by one of those missiles, so there's not a lot of engagement time for these anti-aircraft missiles to do stuff, or the guns to train and fire and that kind of thing. So bear in mind the capabilities you have against the capabilities you're going against. Okay, got some EM emission there as well. So if we look at this thing, it's going 38 knots. I haven't seen this thing fire any missiles yet or anything like that, but I can assume that it being by this OSA that we did sink, and definitely the speed it's going at, I can classify that as a hostile, and I'm going to take a harpoon and fire it right at them. Now when you fire these harpoons, you got to be careful because it's not it's a little bit different than the SM-1 missiles or the RIM-66. Those will actually use these FCRs pointed at the target, and they'll only go after what this thing is pointing at. So that means if you fire a missile at this ship, this little FCR is going to point at that ship, and that missile is going to ride the beam to get to the target. Harpoon, however, is got an active radar on it, so... Oh no, what did I fire at? Oh, these... Okay, they're firing... The ship's automatically defending itself against this missile. Anyways, yeah, these harpoon missiles will actually... fly out a certain distance, then they'll turn on their radar, and then they're going to find whatever's out there, and they're going to home to it automatically. They don't require your ship painting the vessel, so it's kind of like a fire and forget thing. Once you got the parameters locked in, you hit the fire button, the harpoon's going to go towards that area, and it's going to turn its radar on it eventually, and it's going to get the biggest target there. So what does that mean? It means that if this merchant was behind this little patrol boat or missile boat, the harpoon potentially might go for that missile or that larger merchant vessel because it's got such a big radar contact. So keep that in mind. Right now we know that it's clear. There's really nothing here, so it's safe to fire the harpoon down the line of bearing. It seems okay. All right. Now we're detecting the emissions here from these radars, probably trying to shoot this thing down, and we know it's a hostile. And of course it's too late. They're done. I don't know if they ever fired their missiles at us. I don't think they did. I think we only got 4 inbound. All right. So we visually detected this. See the V there. And our radar is picking up the missile going into the boost. So we detected this plume of dust basically from our sailors. And so we want to get rid of this threat. As the missiles get shot down, we also want to make sure that we fire a missile at the facility here that's launching these missiles. Yep, let's make sure we're firing at that. Okay, there we go. It's important to try and kill these launchers because a lot of times these missiles just periodically are going to get reloaded and fired at you. So rather than having to deal with constantly shooting down the missiles, just get them at the source if you can. Another thing you can do with Yorktown, probably don't have to do it for this scenario, but we can also launch aircraft. So we've got a flight deck, as you can see there, and if we hit the aircraft icon down here, we've already got an aircraft ready for loadout, with the ASW loadout ready for launch. You can change that if you do. Say if we want to just do a long-range patrol, we can, say, put the ferry loadout so we get the extra fuel, and then get them ready. So we can do that. We'll get this one ready. We have two SH2s there, and then once this guy is ready, we'll go ahead. He'll be ready in about 3 minutes. We'll go ahead and launch him. Okay, so far that was a lot of shooting pretty rapidly. We're about 15 minutes in almost, and we've sunk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vessels. We've destroyed a missile launching site. We're going to use our helicopter to go see if we can scout some more targets. And I can see here some enemy aircraft are coming in. Now, this is an interesting one to look at here. Let's make this big so you can see it. A lot of times in the game, you might detect one aircraft in a formation, and you might be able to identify it as hostile. Maybe it's got its radars going and it's got an emission coming out from it so you can see it. But there might be other aircraft flying with it that you're not detecting other things to classify it. But you can kind of make them guilty by association. If you know that this guy's enemy jet coming at you, and it's 610 knots, and it's going 3,200 feet. And you see a similar thing there. This one's going 607 knots at 3,200 feet. It's basically in formation, in trail formation, going the same course. Then you can say that's probably hostile as well. So you can go ahead and just right-click, make it hostile. Obviously, no civilian airliner is going to be riding in trail formation with the fighter jet, right? Just doesn't make sense at those altitudes and speeds. And because those are jets, and we're at weapons tight, Yorktown's not going to fire at those jets just yet. Okay, it's going to wait until they drop weapons on us. So we want to put this into weapons free. And now we're going to start engaging these air tracks. We're going to engage this missile that's inbound that just launched from somewhere around here. And then eventually, you can see the missiles are also coming out for the two jets there. So you can see the power of the air defense cruiser and the AEGIS weapons system or radar suite with its weapon system of these RIM 66 Golfs. I think they go like 90 miles. So 90 nautical miles there. And that doesn't mean that they can hit surface contacts at 90 nautical miles or anything. That's like in the perfect condition. You can think of it as these guys need to be able to see, and the radar needs to be able to see the contact. So as they get further away on the horizon, they got to be higher up in altitude so you can see them further away. If they're low on the horizon, or if they're, say, 50 feet, we're not going to see them until they hit the radar horizon, which may be like 15, 20 nautical miles away. All right, and let's see how we did. All right, we shot down two jets there. Pretty cool. If you want to get rid of the HUD and all that stuff just to see things, you can go ahead and hit the backspace key, and then you'll clear the HUD out, and you hit backspace again when you want to see it again. Okay, so I think our helicopters are probably good now to launch. So let's just launch the ferry one. So we got some contacts here. One of these is hostile and kind of dips in and dips out. This is a radar echo that we don't know what it is. It's going 7.4 knots, so like we talked about with the speed earlier, I'm going to assume that's probably a merchant, but let's go verify that. Try to verify it with our helicopter and see what we can do. This guy's going 32 knots, and like we said earlier, it was a hostile, and that makes sense because it's going 32 knots. So you see the helicopter come out here and spool up. This radar mission, you can try to... Oh, okay, there we go. So we're watching these missiles as they show up on our radar, and once again we see the altitude climbing, so we know that this came from a vessel nearby. This guy has a big oval of uncertainty, but we are for sure watching these missiles here, so that tells me this ship is actually probably right around here somewhere. So if you know something like that, you can try to fire missiles at it at the spot it's probably at, and not necessarily where this emission's at. So this is these are Silex missiles. So bigger vessels can fire these Silex missiles. So if you think of it that way, you might need a couple more harpoons than just not one harpoon when you're trying to go against a boat that's maybe like a destroyer size or even a frigate. If they're a corvette, you can probably get away with just using one harpoon, but you kind of fall into this trap if you don't use enough harpoons when you're going against the surface contact. Imagine if we shot one. Well, let's demonstrate. Let's just try this out. We'll shoot one at him. Okay, and I'm saying because these missiles launch here, he's probably like somewhere over here. Okay. Now this can work out for us, or it won't work out for us. So we might get lucky and that one missile gets through and hits the ship and damages it significantly. But there's also a reality where that missile doesn't make it, and now we fired one harpoon, and now if we want to up our odds, because we know one missile's probably not going to get through, now we probably need to fire two missiles. So if we were then firing two harpoons, we've already wasted 3 harpoons if those 2 harpoons actually get through, versus just using 2 harpoons at the very beginning and saving ourselves wasting a missile. You can keep going on and on with this. You can potentially, if that contact really needed 4 missiles, we could waste all our missiles trying to shoot this guy when we're doing it one at a time, or 1 or 2 at a time. All right. They are engaging these guys. These are Silex missiles, so they go about 27 nautical miles. They're pretty neat. They can be used in an anti-surface mode, which is what this guy is doing right now. And if we were to have a submarine, they could also use this as an anti-submarine weapon, and they would fire this at us and drop this little torpedo off the back of this thing, basically right over us, which would be pretty devastating if we're a submarine. All right, that missile got shot down, and our helicopter's up. So with helicopters, you can right-click on them, and if we go over like an unknown contact, we get this eyeball icon. So we can tell him to go identify that track. And now it says for his status, he's identifying the track. And he's going to fly towards that as close as he needs to get into visual range. And then he'll figure out what it is. And then if that's a merchant, it'll turn green. And if that's a hostile, we need to keep an eye on this guy, because if it is hostile, we're flying, say, like 10 miles up to the contact. They could potentially shoot this thing down, and then we just lose our helicopter. So keep an eye out when you're flying towards contacts. Right now we seem pretty safe because we're still really far away. All right. So they fired 2 more. We got coastal artillery firing as well. So let's see, now that we got the coastal artillery exposed, let's see if we're in range. Oh, it looks like we might be. All right. Harpoons inbound. Okay, you see they fired off their chaff. They can be doing defensive countermeasures, like physical ones like the chaff, or they can be doing electronic attack against this weapon. And you see it was shot down. So that was 1 harpoon because we tried to be greedy. So this is a Krvak frigate right here. Basically, they've got, we've got another site that was revealed. So let's fire. Once you see these sites pop up, you gotta take advantage of it, because they're being exposed because they're firing. Once they stop firing, they won't really be seen anymore. So when you get the chance, make sure you can fire at them, just to get a weapon going their way. Yeah. So the Krvak it's only got 4 of these Silex missiles, and I think they already fired all 4 and they were all shot down. So really, the only other weapon system we need to worry about is these guns. That's the next longest range thing. All right. Let's see if we kill this surface gun battery. Looks like we hit. It's dead. Got an SSN-2 over here. Ooh, it dodged both those missiles. Alright, so some of these missiles are going towards the SSN-2, and another one is going towards the missile launcher. Alright, here it comes. We'll see if we get some interceptions. There's our little helicopter in the distance there. Alright, the missiles. Alright, they actually got him. That's good. And then this guy's speeding down from space, going a crazy speed of 2,400 knots. Gosh. Where is this thing? Oh, is it there? Wow, hit it. Okay, cool. Alright, so I know that the Krvak, like I said, fired all 4 of its missiles. Maybe if you don't know what it can carry, you can just right-click unit reference on it. And then we see these weapons. So the RBU is a literally close-range mortar. You can use it on submarines, but you can also use it on surface contacts. 3.1 nautical miles. It's these little round things here. They're really cool to use. Next one is those Silex missiles I was talking about. So they go 27 nautical miles, and these are dual purpose. They've already fired 4, so they've got that. And then the SAN-4s, these are anti-aircraft and anti-surface, but they go 5.4 nautical miles. So those are the launchers that are they're right here and right here. They'll pop up and fire missiles. So they're so close that they're really just for air to, or surface to air. Sorry. If you're using that against a surface target, then it better be a small boat, because anybody else can outrange you with guns. So speaking of guns, they've got torpedoes here. They're anti-submarine, so we don't worry about them. But they do have these 100mm guns. They've got 2 of them, and those things have a range of 11.3 nautical miles. So if you're going against surface ships, definitely take a look at the reference, and then you can kind of draw out a circle, and we'll say 11 nautical miles. And that's going to let us know, once we're in 11 nautical miles, that we're at threat of being shot at. And if you look at this clearly, we can see our helicopter, if it gets detected by this crevasse, can be shot at by those guns. And we'll know that that's going to happen if this guy actually, say if our helicopter is coming down from this direction, he's probably going to have to turn a little bit to shoot guns at us. So he might not detect the helicopter at the moment or see it's hostile. I guarantee if I go to turn my MCON off and I turn my surface search radar on, he's immediately going to see that we're radiating an SH2 radar, and he's going to take, he's going to try and destroy us with those guns, I think. So we'll try to visually identify this thing, see how we do. We'll see if this guy reacts to this helicopter. There he goes. So he's trying to react to him. You can defend yourself by going real low. See, the design of the crevasse is kind of strange because these guns can't be up forward because of the missile launchers. So they're back aft, and that requires for them to use it to kind of unmask those guns. So if they're heading towards a target they want to shoot at, eventually got to turn away to open up to let these guns have a clear line of bearing to fire down. Alright, so those sights are burning in the distance. Crevasse is probably off in the distance over there. Ooh, that was really close. So we can pull out this way. So we'll know once we get out of this bubble that we're safe. Alright, this merchant was identified visually, so we know that that's a civilian boat. There's not any more unknowns, but sometimes you could also right click and say request to identify yourself. You definitely want to do that from like a helicopter and an aircraft or something, and not your ships, because if you do that against a hostile ship, for instance, and ask them to identify themselves, maybe because they're unknown at the moment, they will immediately know where you're at, and if they're in range with their weapons, they're going to try and fire at you. So do it with a helicopter, do it with a plane. If they figure out who you are, then it doesn't really matter. Alright, so you can see we're out of that bubble now, and the firing has stopped, right? We got out of range from this thing. This guy's got to be careful because he's going to run aground if he keeps continuing to turn that way to shoot at us. So we're good. So that was what I wanted to demonstrate using the helicopter. They're using the radar system on this thing is a very powerful extension to your surface vessel. So if you right click on the unit, you'll see the radar there. Goes 75 nautical miles. And so the main thing to keep in mind with that is you have to have a good bit of altitude to see things at range, because there's like radar line of sight and that kind of stuff. And the higher you go, say if we went to like the max altitude, the helicopter would go super slow. So if you're trying to cruise around to go patrol an area, you don't want to go too high because the speed will drop off so much that it just you kind of get stuck there. Yeah, I've seen it sometimes where the wind's aloft at like 10,000 feet, where so much so that this guy was only cruising at like 20 knots and I had to drop him down to be able to fly faster. So we can, if you want to send this guy back to base, you can say, well, before we do that, this big blue circle is the actual range of this helicopter right now. So we can fly pretty freaking far with those two ferry tanks. If you just hold your mouse over the status, you'll see here our fuel percentage is 132%, and we can fly for like 4 hours at the altitude we're going at right now, or 6 hours. It keeps increasing as we gain altitude and get more fuel efficiency. And yeah, there are distress beacons in the water. That's if you want to pick people up, you can go ahead and do that. Oh, the flight time is because we stopped moving. We're just kind of hovering at altitude. Yeah, the distress beacons there's 6 at 6.6 nautical miles, so they're probably distress beacons from these vessels that were sunk. If you go to the surface of these things, if I go ahead and zip on up here, you can actually fly your helicopter to this spot, and if they're at 20 feet in altitude, they will start picking up people from these life rafts. So these life rafts will disappear as they take people on board, and you can just deliver them to your ship in RTB and then fly more helicopter sorties out to the same spots to pick them up. So anyways, if you want an RTB, you just simply hit the T button and he's going to fly straight to the ship. So a thing to keep in mind is that this straight line doesn't care if it goes through the firing radius of a weapon system of an enemy ship. If the helicopter was here and I told it to RTB, it is going to go fly right through this and probably get shot down. Okay, if you want to avoid that, just manually make waypoints that go around the hostile weapon systems. One thing you can't control, I should mention this, if this guy runs out of fuel and he goes bingo fuel, wherever he's at, he's going to make a straight line to your ship. So if he goes bingo fuel over here, he's going to fly directly over the Curvac and get shot down. So keep that in mind. If you're running low on fuel, then you definitely want to start maneuvering the safe way back home. And you can tell that because this big circle, as the fuel dwindles, it'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, and that's basically the area that you have left that you can fly on the fuel that you have on board. Okay, so that's all I'll talk about with the helicopter. Now let's go try to kill the Curvac. You see we're at 15 nautical miles. We can probably start firing RIM 66 missiles at it. The larger a vessel is, the further away you can shoot these radar-guided missiles at it and not require using a harpoon. Harpoons are great because they go pretty far. They're like 65 nautical miles, or this one goes 80 nautical miles, sorry. So that range obviously is much greater than these RIM 66 in surface mode. When you're using that, they're probably around 15 to 20 something miles, like low 20s, and that depends on the target's size. The taller they are, the further away we can hit them with these RIM 66s. The benefit of not using the harpoon is we've got a limited amount, right? So we've only got 8 on board, and we have a ton of these RIM 66 missiles. You see one of these missiles hitting has caused a fire already. We have 40 left. This matters because if you ever play the linear campaign that comes with the game now, there's 2 of them. There's the Molnia Strike Group campaign. That one actually has persistence in it. So if you're firing off all your weapons, when you go into the next mission, you haven't been rearmed, you can be pretty screwed because you'll still have the enemy threats, but you just won't have the missiles to fire at them. So you kind of want to manage what missile systems you're using. If you can use guns, try to use guns instead. Man, this is pretty awesome. Flying down. Increasing speed over 2,000. You see they're trying to fire SAMs at us. We're just going way too fast. Yeah, because she's fired her 4 Silex missiles at us, she can only hope to get guns on us, and she just can't at the moment. So we're just going to keep firing missiles at her. Now, if you wanted to fire multiple missiles at something, you can just right-click on the missile you want to use and say Salvo 2 or Salvo 4. Right-click on the contact, and it's gonna do it for you. So the cool detail is if you look at these radar dishes, they're pointed at the target. So it's a great detail in this game. See the target's over there, it's on fire. And this one's not being used because we've only fired 3 missiles. If we were to fire a 4th one, you'd see that one try to lock onto the target. If it's blocked, then the ship's actually going to try to maneuver to unmask this thing so it can use that fire control radar. So we got some hits there over there, and there's 2 more coming up. Looks like this missile was like defeated, so it's got this icon, the up triangle there. Oh, but it doesn't matter. That other 3rd missile hit the Curvac, so got the mission accomplished. Now we can successfully transit the strait. So basically the mission's over. If you want to go ahead and finish up, you can go ahead and do that. Say if you come to this after action report, you still want to play, all you have to do is hit escape a couple times there and just go to resume. And now you can play and continue playing it. Maybe if you're trying to do something, you want to test some things out. And then, of course, if you leave again, then you can go ahead and see the after-action report. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. I think I talked a lot. Sorry if it was really fast, but there's just a lot going on. Really, on this mission, you can probably play it almost in autopilot. As long as you just remember the Yorktown needs to be at weapons free if you want it to shoot at the incoming aircraft. And when you're shooting at incoming aircraft, you have to make sure they're hostile. So if you see one that's unidentified but it's flying with the hostile jet, then go ahead and manually say that it's hostile, and that'll allow the Yorktown crew, if they're at weapons free, to just open fire at it. If they don't, if we didn't adjust that, if they were at weapons tight, we would basically watch those MiG-21s come at us until they drop bombs, and then we'd shoot at them. But by the time they drop the bombs, it's a little too late, right? Because sure, we could shoot those planes down, but now the bombs are going to hit the ship and cause a lot of damage. So definitely, that's about the only thing you really got to watch out for in this particular mission. So it's a great beginner mission. A lot happens pretty quickly, but I think it's a great demonstration that shows you there are opportunities in some of these missions where you don't have to be at MCON. You don't have to start off at MCON. You can just bang away with your radar. If you've got an amazing radar system like the AEGIS radar, you should definitely use it because it's going to help protect your ships from incoming missiles. You saw how successful it was with all the incoming missiles being thrown at us. Granted, those weren't like really high-end missiles or anything, but it was they were dependably shooting them down. And we didn't have to use CWIS in any of those engagements. It was all the SM-1 missiles shooting at that thing. So anyways, I hope you learned a lot. And if you want to see more of this kind of tutorial things, you can go ahead and ask questions, or if you have an idea for a tutorial you want me to do or play through a certain tutorial mission, let me know and I'll consider it. And then, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll get to them as soon as possible, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.